And this is how they always put us down.
Make my people,
you know, they always attack anything they can, you know.
Putnam County, Eatonton, Georgia. Established December 12 in 1807. Named after General William Eaton, a military war hero from Connecticut. The small town is known as the dairy capital of the world, in honor of its major industry, dairy farming. The birthplace of noted writers Alice Walker, of The Color Purple, and Joe Harris, author of the Uncle Remus stories. This is their story, a people returning to their ancestral land, a small town sheriff, along with city officials and the federal government's concentrated effort to frame the innocent man, and the character assassination of a people, out of fear and cultural differences, a case left with a paper trail of loopholes. One may say the greatest conspiracy never told, of the wrongful conviction of Reverend Dr. Malachi Z. York.
Last night. Right, Rev? Is it possible, Rev, that God could have spoke to me last night and spoke to my heart, Rev?
97 was a beautiful year for the Nuwaubians. 1997, we had already owned the land, and for the last 4 years, because we purchased it originally in 92, 93, so it's about 4 or 5 years. We had already owned the land. There was a good amount of building that had already been done. Holy Tabernacle Ministries had already built the Black Temple, and that was the first year that we had our Z ceremony, a very special ceremony for us that only occurs once every 30 years.
I was the first to arrive. Me and Wally, we arrived in Putnam County in 93, and during that time it was just cows on the land. They had cows and they had deer, so it wasn't no, as they say, the pyramids in Tamaray back then when we first got there. Being here, right, I had certain instructions to, certain buildings we wanted to do, to build, because, we had some people coming. So I had to go down to Putnam County to put in, application for them, as far as trying to get a permit for the different buildings to build. And we encountered a lot of problems. At first it was okay, it's a house here, a house there. And then, they getting to realize, okay, it's more than one house, it's more than two houses. So then that's when our problems start.
We have bought about 100 new homes so that families could live together if that's what they chose to do. But we were not allowed to put the homes up because planning and zoning was not allowing it, and we were fighting for that. So because a lot of people wanted to live up there, and we had chose to live up there because we consolidate our funds because we were trying to build an Egyptian theme park.
We started building our pyramids, and a lot of things. The first building we built, right, was an exact duplicate of a building that was in Putnam County.
The zoning problem started from the Nuwaubians really at the end of 1998. And end of 1998 is when we had our second annual Halloween party in our social club, Reminiscences, because it had been built in finished built in fall of 1997. So 1998, we had our second Halloween party, and then sometime shortly after that, the building had gotten cited for zoning violations. The problem with that is the building had already been up and running for over a year when they originally came back and said, well, we didn't have a certificate of occupancy, which is true by law, by code. You're supposed to have a certificate of occupancy, but by code, the next step would be for the owners to, contract a proper contractor, which they did, which was me, as a Nuwaubian general contractor, was the name of my company at the time, to go back and file the necessary paperwork for the certificate of occupancy, which we did. They used that particular building to go and do an inspection of the land, and they looked at other building projects, and there may have been 1 or 2 building code violations, and they utilized that as a reason to shut down all the buildings on the land. That was an injunction that was filed, and the first injunction filed in 1999. The actual case was 99 CV 1-1. Where it was an injunction placed against all of the buildings on the land, where they literally had all the buildings shut down on the land. The sheriff, Howard Richard Seals, come out and do the building inspections. And we're like, he's not an inspector. Why is he doing the building inspections? You know, okay. Then he would send the building inspector to come out and come out with him. You don't know anything about building inspections. Why are you even here? I've never seen that before in my life, where a law enforcement official would take the time to stop and do building inspections. No, that was just their excuse and their reason to be able to come up on the land and for him to be able to look around and search the whole property.
Well, legally, no sheriff has done that. You know, legally, that's not his job. But the fact that they wanted to go under the harassment thing, he's a sheriff, he's on the land, he's doing building inspector. You know what I mean? And that's not his job. That comes under the planning and zoning with your building inspector. They come and they inspect. All your cities have that. They have what they call, you know, your planning and zoning, building inspector, or they have marshals that work for the planning and zoning.
Oh, there was no doubt. The sheriff was only there to seek information. His whole purpose and goal of coming was to see what he could see, what he could get into, and see what he could use against us. Like I said, he was only coming to find something he found illegal, in any manner, any form of fashion whatsoever. That's all. That was his whole purpose. He didn't know the first thing about a building in zone of violation. He's a sheriff. What does he know about building codes?
What New Orleans came to realize, Putnam County officials had made plans to expand their airport and upgrade State Highway 16, anticipating this to be the route of incoming tourists. This same highway that connects to Highway 142 runs directly in front of the New Orleans property on 404 Shadydale Road, which means tourists, before reaching the city of Eatonton, would have to first pass Tamaray, Egypt of the West.
It was really all about the county officials working together with other members of government in order to get us off that land, because it was sat right on Highway 142, which is a main thoroughfare going towards Reynolds Plantation. And Reynolds Plantation was owned by Reynolds, who was a filthy rich man, who had ties to the government, and they just didn't want us as their little glitch in the system.
That's when our problems start. Then they start holding us back. Well, we would go down there, okay, we want to get a permit for this. Well, you can't get a permit unless you do this. So we would go back and we would do that. We come back, then they change their mind about it. And it was like a whole harassment thing as far as like for us building. It was always, we do whatever they say. When we come back, they change the rules. And that's the way they did it. We were grandfathered in. You know, and grandfather means anything you were doing before that 97, then you would go under the old zoning law. And that was the problem right there, because they kept trying to shift us to 1997 laws and say, no, we're grandfather in, just like everybody else in the county.
The excessiveness of the actions done by Putnam County officials, and I will say it wasn't just the building inspector's office, the county commissioners in on it, the county attorney and the husband of the county attorney, who pretended to be, even though it was against the law, the county attorney. All these particular actions were taken to shut us down, and this is why the landowners at the time, who was at the time not Dr. Malachi Z, but it was 9 individuals who were the head of the church that was on the land, the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, hired me and my company to go and sort out all the building and zoning violations. On June 11th of that year, I had to go into Superior County Court and argue as to why we should be allowed to proceed on with the building projects. And at the time, the county attorney was trying to have the lights turned off on the land. You know, their whole thing was, well, we want to turn off all the electricity, not just to the buildings that were under violation, but to the entire land. All of the developed land, which were houses, which were offices, which were, you know, stuff that already existed.